Hi, I'm Danny Boyd, and I confess, like a deluge of English rain, I cry at the culmination of 2001's A Knight's Tale. Not just one time or moment,
This is my word,
but throughout the entire final act.
and as such is beyond contestation.
I cry in anticipation of these scenes, I cry when I think about these scenes, I cry when I know I'm getting to the end of the movie, and I tell myself, nope, I know exactly what's about to happen, and there I am, ugly tears every time. Now, that might not be true for you, but at the core of it, I think it's an experience a lot of us who love movies have known at one time or another. And it's lately made me want to think about why. What is it about a movie, any movie, that makes us cry? I think there is certainly an empathy component if a performance is good enough, if the context of a scene is sad enough. But in the case of A Knight's Tale, and most of my back pocket list of crying films, they aren't sad tears.
Word of your son.
And I think 9 times out of 10, whatever the moment, it all ultimately comes down to one thing.
You just follow your feet.
Setup and payoff.
And has he followed his feet?
We cry when a moment is earned, and that isn't easy to do. So today, beginning with A Knight's Tale, I've distilled my personal ocean of tears down to 3 key scenes and moments from the movie, and then I've traced those 3 moments back from the beginning along 3 central threads. This is all a bit of an experiment. I don't know how it's gonna go, but let's give it a shot. In a new segment, I'm calling I'm Not Crying, You're Crying, movie scenes that make me weep like a little babe. Ready?
Shall we help him?
Let's set the stage.
He's dead.
A Knight's Tale kicks off pretty much immediately.
What do you mean dead?
The spark of his life is smothered in shite.
Heath Ledger and his friends are squires to a knight who's just died in the middle of a joust.
We're minutes from victory. I haven't eaten in 3 days. None of us have what?
So, the brave Ledger, aka William Thatcher,
I'll ride in his place.
decides to complete the remainder of the tournament in his master's stead, despite one glaring issue.
It's not Sir William, it's not Count or Duke or Earl William, it's certainly not King William.
I'm aware of that.
You have to be of noble birth to compete.
Ultimately, though, all Will has to do to win is hold his own and not be knocked off his horse.
I've waited my whole life for this moment.
Which he does. He completes the match, and luckily also gets his face pummeled in the process.
Sir Ector, remove your helmet.
Their victory, though, gives William a bright idea.
We could do this.
Do it, we've done it, boy. That's silver in your hand.
That if they continue to pretend,
I mean, we can do this.
continue to compete,
We can be champions.
Will may be untrained, but as he says,
Well, most of it is the guts to take a blow, to strike one. Guts I have.
and it's at this point that we're introduced to our first central thread,
A man can change his stars.
and the main theme of the movie,
And I won't spend the rest of my life as nothing.
which, with that all introduced, we'll pocket for the time being. Continuing on, Will convinces his friends to help him.
Glory and riches, glory and riches, glory and riches!
He gets a proper 2000s Heath Ledger haircut,
Fine.
and then on the road, the gang meet none other than the author of A Knight's Tale, bare naked and played by the endlessly charming Paul Bettany.
Lilium interspinous. The lily among the thorns. Geoffrey Chaucer's the name. Writing's the game.
Who agrees to join their merry band to draft for William fake patents and nobility under the false name Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein, but best of all, to be William's herald.
Behold, my lord Ulrich von Liechtenstein, son of Scylla.
Excuse me? Too late, he's been announced.
Fine.
10 blows by sword!
For real though, Bettany in this movie, he's so good. Like, all of his introductions of Will are priceless.
Like a wind from Goldland, he sweeps by, blown far from his homeland in search of glory and honor. We walk in the garden of his turbulence.
Anyway, it's around this point that we're introduced to the second central thread, William's love affair with the Lady Jocelyn, along with the introduction to our main villain, Count Adhemar.
My lady, may I present Count Adhemar, winner of the joust in France and high champion at Saint-Emilion.
Played by one of my favorite actors of all time, Rufus Sewell.
All such moments forgotten, and standing before the most beautiful woman in Christendom.
With them, we also get reinforcement of William's core characterization in the movie as someone who is by no means flawless, but who is fearless.
Fearless? How so?
The slit in a helmet's visor is narrow, but splinters can penetrate it. Most knights raise their chins at the last instant. You lose sight of your opponent, but you protect your eyes. This Ulrich doesn't.
And all of this is followed immediately by the commencement of our third central thread, with the introduction of James Purefoy's character,
I'm through.
Sir Colville.
But, I wish to keep my honor.
And William's decision to grant the injured Colville a mercy.
A draw, and Colville is hurt.
So, to recap, 3 threads. 1. William's brazen pursuit of glory under a name that is not his own, Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein. 2. William's affection for the Lady Jocelyn. And 3. William's ability to occasionally put his brashness aside for someone who asks of him to. I want to now continue each of these 3 threads individually, right up until the point of the final act. Thread 1. Thread 1 continues amidst a devastating loss against Adamar, leading into a flashback. We see Will as a boy watching a tournament with his father, and we get reinforcement of the film's central theme.
Someday, I'll be a knight.
A Thatcher's son? A knight? You might as well try to change the stars.
Can it be done, Father? Can a man change the stars?
Yes, William. He believes enough a man can do anything.
It's a flashback, though, that comes amidst Will's first big defeat in the film, and it's here where we begin to really see the character flaws in Will.
It's your best event. No, it's tournament champion or nothing at all.
His pride and stubbornness when things don't go his way. Still, in that pursuit of champion, William has wins, he has losses, but because Will's dream ultimately was to become a knight, and because he on the face of it has achieved that very quickly, albeit under a false title, most of the arc that revolves around him chasing his dream, changing his stars, until the final act makes sense to be done through flashback. As the group arrives in London for the final joust against Adamar, the characters reflect on how long it's been since each of them have been home.
How long since any of you been back?
6 months, 2 years, 3, 5.
William?
But for Will, we learn.
12. 12 years.
This scene transitions us to the moment Will's father, John Thatcher, sent young William on his path to become a squire.
Sir Rector, I'm the Thatcher. I spoke to you outside London Stadium.
Oh, yes, I remember. Is this the boy?
Here, major themes are further reinforced: Will's courage and audaciousness.
Show me your arm. You've got a strong arm?
And his mission.
It's all I can do for you, son. Now go, change your stars and live a better life than I have.
Which brings a close to thread 1 until the final act. Thread 2.
Call me a fox, for that is all I am to you.
A fox? Oh, well, then a fox you shall be until I find your name. My foxy lady.
Here we follow a fairly basic rom-com formula. William and Jocelyn, they court each other, they attend a dance where Adamar tries to embarrass Will, but Jocelyn saves him from medieval social calamity. But with the good, we also get the classic parting.
I've come to see what you'll wear to banquet tonight.
Nothing.
Due to Will's obsession over winning, he unfairly takes his frustration at a key moment in the film out on Jocelyn.
A flower is only as good as its petals, don't you think?
A flower is good for nothing.
We witness the destructive wake Will's brash pursuit of glory yields, isolating himself, split between 2 identities, neglecting to think about the people around him, just trying to love and support him.
You're just a silly girl.
All the while pretending to be a knight of noble birth just to prove himself worthy to her.
Better a silly girl with a flower than a silly boy with a horse and a stick.
This theme of sort of personal concealment continues in an interesting way in the next beat in this thread, where Will dictates to Jocelyn a love letter as a way of apologizing.
Dear Jocelyn. No, my dearest Jocelyn. Better.
Very sweetly, after a brief introduction, all of his companions pitch in with their own tales of heartache and love.
But I used to say that
The pieces of my
so
broken
small.
heart are so small that they could be passed through the eye of a needle.
The result, though, is that past the beginning, they aren't Will's words.
Hope guides me.
It is what gets me through the day and especially the night.
And when next he and Jocelyn meet, in this totally underrated 3.5-minute lateral tracking shot, by the by, She asks him to speak his poetry again to her.
Speak those words.
But he can't because they weren't his. And he makes an ass of himself once again, trying to be somebody he isn't.
Excuse me.
But this tournament, I'll win it in your name. Every knight I defeat for you. Your beauty will be reflected in the power of my arm, the flanks of my horse.
Wow.
Being the one person in Will's life to not constantly bend over backwards for him, Jocelyn asks Will to prove his love to her not by winning, as every brave knight promises to do, but by foregoing his pride and losing.
I want you to act against your normal character and do badly.
Do badly?
Lose.
Which he very reluctantly does.
I don't understand!
Oh, neither do I.
Getting very injured in the process. And that's essentially that thread closed for the moment, too. Thread 3. So earlier, we watched Will spare the injured knight Colville with a draw. In this scene, Colville returns, only we learn that in fact Colville is not his name.
It's Edward, my lord. They're sure of it.
A fact that causes even Adamar to bow out.
A draw like that can mean only one thing. Royalty.
Not just any royalty.
Colville is Edward, the Black Prince of Wales, and future King of England.
Having the same instincts as Adamar, Will's friends move to withdraw. But Will, boldly, rides on anyway, which makes Edward very happy.
Lads!
Fast forward through to the end of the joust.
You knew me?
Yeah.
And still you rode?
It's not in me to withdraw.
Nor me. Well, it happens.
And that puts a knot on that thread.
Yes, it does.
Until the final act as well. And with all of that, we return to where I began the video, at the end. Arriving in London, William Thatcher, aka Ulrich von Liechtenstein, is a superstar. His rivalry with Adamar and his love for Jocelyn are at their peaks. Adamar schemes as to how to take an unfair advantage.
How would you beat him?
With a stick while he slept.
And amidst all this, Will decides to return to his roots in Cheapside in secret.
Hello there.
And this is where I begin to cry.
I wonder if you remember a man. They may have died before you were born. He was as tall as a knight. His name was John Thatcher.
Of course I remember him.
You do?
Well, yeah, he lives there still. Sometimes we see him sitting out the window, but no one knows why.
What do you mean?
He's blind, sir.
I cry when Will finds his father, blind, still alive, still working.
Someone there?
I cry when Will says to him,
He wanted you to know that he changed his stars after all.
I cry for the look in Christopher Casanova's eyes when he realizes that after 12 long years, his decision to give up everything to give his son a shot at something actually amounted to something.
Oh, William! Oh, my boy!
This is interjected by a shot showing us Adamar discovering William's humble roots. And in the next scene, Will's friends tell him that he's going to be arrested for falsifying himself as a noble.
They're going to arrest you. 12 royal guards.
But Will, still bashful as ever, refuses.
No! I will not run!
I like that for Jocelyn, learning Will's true identity is not the source of conflict here. She loves him for him. He's the one who still can't love him for him.
But you will see me run? No!
When she says this,
Damn your pride, William.
I cry.
It is you and only you that will not see you run.
My pride is the only thing they can't take from me.
They can take it from you. They can and they will.
And that like his father, she too would give up everything for Will.
And where will we live? In my hovel. With the pigs inside in winter so they won't freeze.
Yes, William, with the pigs. With the pigs.
Courageous to a fault, Will moves to compete and sure enough is arrested. Beaten up by Adamar in his cell, put into the stocks. I tear up at the sight of his friends at the ready to defend him against the mob, but I absolutely weep when who shows up? Edward, future King of England, hooded and robed, and there to repay a debt.
Your men love you. If I knew nothing else about you, that would be enough. But you also tilt when you should withdraw.
And I cry when Edward does this.
Now, if I may repay the kindness you once showed me, take a knee.
Not as Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein,
Sir William,
but as William. Because it can never be through falsehoods or deception that Will changed his stars. It wasn't his skill or his bravery or his pretense. It was the one moment where he chose to put his pride aside and honor the request of another person that is ultimately what led him to this moment. Just as the one instance he put his pride aside for the woman he loves is what proved his love to her. To me, that is payoff.
So, Thatcher!
As I say, I have no shame. I will defend this movie for all its flaws, all its corniness, all its beautiful anachronisms, until the end. I'm Danny Boyd, and that is my confession.